The House of Representatives has passed a sweeping gun control package that now faces an uphill battle in the Senate.
And with the Congress divided on gun laws, the big question is, do we even have effective legislation that helps prevent gun violence now? To discuss, let's welcome back gun violence expert Dr. Jonathan Metzl, also a professor of sociology and psychiatry at Vanderbilt University. Jonathan, we put you on the spot this week. Thank you for coming back because you talked about your research, which states, and you specifically talked about states that are successfully preventing gun violence, but we don't hear a lot about that. What did you find specifically that stands out to you as we are in the middle of a number of pieces of legislation that at this point are going nowhere?
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be back. And I would just say first, we should think that it's partially a trick question, right? We have plenty of examples of other places where people have guns and they limit shootings. Many other countries have faced a similar issue. And so we should be asking, for example, about what happens in Israel, where many people have guns, they carry guns around, but they have a far lower rate of everyday gun violence than we do. And that's because they have all kinds of restrictions by age. You can't be 27 or younger and carry a gun if you're not on active military service. Switzerland, people have guns, but those guns are part of national defense, not part of individual defense. So I think the first question we should be asking is, how can we look to other countries that have people with lots of guns around, and what are they doing? Now, within the United States, I think there are three things that are important to keep in mind. Number one, in general, states that regulate how people can carry guns in public have lower rates of mass shooting. There was a great study in the British Medical Journal a couple of years ago that showed that states like New York that had relatively tight gun laws and were surrounded by other states like Connecticut and other states like that saw fewer mass shootings. Second, we have 19 states and the District of Columbia that have red flag laws. Those laws have been shown to reduce gun suicide, and I think that's super important. Gun suicide is a very important part of this conversation. And third, I think the converse, the opposite is true, which is that we see in states that overturn all their gun laws, like Florida, when they enacted Stand Your Ground, made it easier for people to fire guns. Those states see higher rates of shooting, and so there's an inverse relationship there. So I think those are the three important points to keep in mind.
And we're hearing now testimony yesterday in particular from survivors and families of gun violence. Just broke your heart, ripped your heart out. Some called for stronger gun laws, and others said stronger laws are not the solution. So do you think Congress should be debating new laws, or should state laws that prove to be effective be adopted at the federal level? How do you read that?
I think laws are so important. I think that in a way, there's so much evidence, even in spite of the 30-year ban that researchers like me had on even studying gun violence. But I think it's pretty overwhelming evidence that more guns and fewer laws lead to more shootings. And I think we have to, in an ideal democracy, we should say, how can we protect lives? And I think we should employ every mechanism we can. What can Congress do? What can the federal government do? And what can local communities do? I think all of these things have to be involved in a concerted effort. And I think when we start saying, oh, gun laws don't work because blah, 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 I think that's where we start losing because then we're basically putting all the onus on one branch of government or one locale, when really this is such a complicated factor. And really, I think I agree with you, that testimony was so heart-wrenching. We should be asking as a nation, what can we do all hands on deck, and use every mechanism at our disposal to help try to make sure that something like that doesn't ever happen again?
John, I want to follow up on your international comparison. I wonder if it's true, as some people suggested, maybe guns don't kill people, maybe Americans with guns kill people. Maybe it's something about us. You talked about the Swiss, the Israelis. Maybe there's something wrong with us. Today, especially when you compare, there are plenty of guns around high schools, 50, 60, 100 years ago. But it's today that people are picking them up in these mad ways. And I wonder if there's something about that withstands your analysis.
I think about this a lot, and I agree with you. I think that if you look at Pew opinion polls, for example, the stories people tell about why they have guns has changed so dramatically over the past 50 or 60 years, but really over the past 20 years. It used to be, just a couple of decades ago, that if you ask gun owners, why do you own guns? They would say, for hunting, or I have a family tradition, or target practice, things like that. very few people said, I need guns to protect myself against other people. Look at opinion polls from the last couple of years, and the narrative people tell about why they have guns is almost entirely about protection from other people, real people, but imagined people too. I might get carjacked, or, all these kind of stories that people tell in these polls. And so, in a way, just the story of why Americans own guns is such a narrative of personal protection and mistrust of other people. And I think we have to look at that. The stories we tell about gun ownership in this country are really part and parcel of the outcomes that we get. It's about mistrust. It's about projection. It's about all these other factors. Yeah, and that's not the case in other countries.
That's really interesting.
Dr. Metzl, thank you so much. Appreciate your time as always.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.